We are Fandom Roulette.
Two nerds with a passion for
History,
video games,
tabletop games,
and, well, really any nerdy stuff that comes into our lives.
While we might not be able to name every ship classification in Star Wars,
Or every Pokemon.
or every spell in the player's handbook,
Well, one of us can.
we're still here to have a good time. Hey everyone, welcome to Fandom Roulette. This is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And on Fandom Roulette, this is a podcast where we talk about a myriad of nerdy things, including such things as history, video games, tabletop role-playing games, and any other nerdy stuff that we feel like talking about. How have you been, Cody?
I have been well. How have you been?
I've also been well. It's a brand new day, and we got some horrible things to talk about.
Yeah, I love horrible things. Is this the history section?
Nope, it's not the history section.
Ah, damn it.
We're pulling an old switcheroo. So anyway, I played a game that, oh my god, this would be funnier if I remember the name of the video game I actually tried out. It's one where you're like, it's like a time loop, and you're like exploring space, and the sun goes supernova after like 22 minutes, and then
oh
you
my
wake
god,
up.
is that Outer Savage? Is it Savage
good.
Worlds?
Possible. That sounds right.
No, that is a tabletop role playing game that I'm thinking of. What is it?
Well, anyway, I'll let you think about that. Just kidding. I didn't play video games. That's not what I do with my life. I did play some Witcher over the weekend, weirdly enough.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah, we're talking history, my man.
Ooh.
So yeah. Hey, so I know that we took a diversion last week into Blacksmithingville while that stuff was still fresh in my head. But we're back to Greek mythology.
Which fits.
Lovely, yeah.
I mean, you got Vulcan, right? Or is he the
Well, that okay. So Vulcan's actually the name of the Roman name of Hephaestus.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I got the wrong.
Yeah.
I got the wrong.
Oh
one.
no. And so actually, that's where the term volcanology comes from, because he forged in a volcano.
Yeah.
And then I believe that the reason that the Vulcans are called Vulcans on Star Trek is because they live on a volcanic planet.
Ooh.
Yeah. So there you go.
Also, my wife is going through Star Trek. I know that's something that needed to be brought up.
Yeah, hey man, every time I can bring up Star Trek, I'm going to.
Yeah, I just watched the episode with her where Data got his recognition as a sentient life form.
Oh, that's like one of the best episodes there is.
Yeah, I just like walked in on it while I was making prep notes for our campaign, and I was like, this seems cool. I want to watch it, but at the same time, that episode list is just so long, and I know if I start, I can't stop, and then...
Oh, yeah.
So I'm waiting for, like...
And then, so here's, like, the other thing about Star Trek. Here's the little secret about Star Trek, Cody, is that, like... And people are going to disagree with me on this pretty robustly, I think. But it's like, you have to... People will just be like, oh, just watch the good ones. And it's like, no, you have to watch the bad ones to deserve the good ones.
Oh, okay.
Because here's the thing. All Trek is good, except that sometimes some Trek is bad.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. It's like bad in a very charming way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some episodes that, I mean, there's one that is actively really bad, and you shouldn't actually watch that episode, but it's in season 1, so it's not too bad.
Okay.
There's an episode where they go to a planet, and it's basically just space Africa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like they're wearing like leather pelts and stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
Come on. I mean,
yeah, it was
shit.
But anyway, hey, Greek mythology, it's a thing. Do you know about that? So yeah, this week we're talking about divine justice.
Outer Wilds.
the Outer Wilds.
Yeah, that was the game where you...
Have you ever played it?
No, I haven't, but I was curious.
Is
it good?
It's like 50% charming, 50% like horrifying.
Cool. That sounds awesome.
So here's the interesting thing about it, Cody. Is real quick. This is going to be a little bit of a switcheroo. So like at no point are you ever given like more skill sets, right?
Okay.
Like you have like a thing that shoots out like a little like camera drone. Okay. And you have a thing that like is like a sonic radar thingamajig.
Sure.
And like I said, after like 22 minutes, I want to say, the sun explodes. And then you wake up and you keep exploring. And so it's like, at no point do you find like a gun or like a better gun or anything like that. So it's basically just like, sometimes it's a puzzle game and sometimes it's a running from like these horrible, like, you know, space peril things. So it's an interesting game. It's like it's like a hellish version of Groundhog's Day, but sometimes it's nice and charming. And sometimes you get to eat marshmallows.
That sounds so sweet.
Yeah.
Anyways, what a diversion this has been. We've never done that before.
Nope, never on this podcast. So hey, we're going to be talking. So like we talked before, right, about how the gods were like the rule givers. And how there was a divine law and that our society was kind of like based on divine law, and that how we shouldn't break the laws of the gods. And so this kind of varies for different things. So like obviously there's one law that kind of goes throughout, which is the law of hospitality. I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but like in the story of the Cyclops from the Odyssey, the main reason that the Cyclops is punished isn't necessarily because he, you know, is like a monster or anything like that. It's because he denied Odysseus the writ of hospitality, which was a big no-no in the Greek world. And so basically the idea is that if you are to break the divine justice of the gods, the deity could create some pretty petty retribution. And this is kind of true throughout. So for instance, another story is like that of Prometheus. Do you know the story of Prometheus?
This is the one that gave fire to the people and then turned it, and he got birds eat him forever.
Yep, they eat a spleen every single day. And like,
I'm really good at explaining the TLDR version of history, I think.
Yeah, no, that was a great job. And so like in that case, you know, this was like Zeus's basically one rule was like, don't give the humans fire. And Prometheus was like, but they'll look so small and sad and scared, I'm going to give them fire. Things like that. But one of the main things that we see in the stories of the gods punishing mortals is that it's usually because they have like an excess of a particular like vice, right? So sometimes it was being too prideful, and or sometimes it's because you're too vain, or maybe it was because you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. But the common thread throughout was that the gods, those who defiled like the rule or the whims of the gods, needed to be punished. And in fact, this actually became something of a through line for some philosophers. So for instance, the philosopher Socrates was put to death for corrupting the youth of Athens because he argued that the universe was not actually controlled by the mortality of the Greek gods, or rather the morality of the Greek gods, mainly because, like, you know, you look at these stories and you're like, whoa, these guys are not necessarily the coolest, right? Like, they're punishing for all these various things. He believed that there was a bigger sort of entity of like reason and things like that. But another kind of thing that we see throughout Greek and Roman mythology as well is it's not necessarily a divine punishment or controlled by anything, but also for those who try to defy fate. that was another thing that basically kind of like destroyed a person. And so fate was not a divine, or fate was a force that was even beyond the gods, if that makes sense. So like, for instance, one of the best examples of that is the story of oh my god, I'm blanking on his name, the guy who stabbed out his eyeballs.
You were talking about Oedipus.
Oedipus, thank you. So in that case, Oedipus's father tries to defy fate. Oedipus himself tries to defy fate, and as a result, he ends up killing his father and marrying his mother. And when he finds out about this, he gouges out his own eyeballs. Pretty gruesome.
Can we talk about how fucked up that is? That like the gods were just like, "Hey, bruh, you're gonna go out there, and no matter what you do, I don't care who you are. I don't care what it is you think you're gonna do. But at the end of the day, you're gonna kill your dad, and you're gonna go bone your mom."
Yeah, right. It's
like,
horrible.
Like, what the fuck, man? Gods are dicks.
Gods are dicks. Hey, put that on
Cody's message of 2020. Gods are dicks.
Gods are dicks. Yeah, so actually a lot of these stories of these like the like divine retribution stories, quite a few of them are found in Ovid's Metamorphoses. Now, Ovid is a Roman author, and his Metamorphoses is an epic poem that covers 250 myths over 15 books. There are some who claim that this is actually something that's a mock epic, because it sometimes employs like a tongue-in-cheek tone, but it is the official definition of an epic, which is a long poem. And so there are quite a few of his stories that fall under mankind's hubris. And so we're going to talk about a few of these stories. Some come from Ovid, some come from other places, but in every case, these are morality stories, right? So things that we as human beings should avoid. So the first one is probably like the most famous story, I would argue, of the ones I'm about to tell, which is the story of King Midas. So Midas was a Greek king who was a vain man who valued wealth and gold over everything. And one day so these stories will vary depending on who is telling them as well. But in many accounts of the story, he prays for the ability that everything he touches can be turned into gold. In one iteration of the story, he is actually rewarded for saving a divine character. I believe he saves a satyr, and they decide that it's like, hey, whatever you want, I will grant you your wish. And so he wishes that everything he touches turns into gold. Initially, he's delighted because, hey, look at all this gold I have now. But as soon as he goes to eat food, he can't eat any of the food because it turns to gold. Then he tries to eat food without touching it, but when his mouth touches it, it turns to gold. And so in some stories, he dies of starvation. Because he is no longer able to consume food because he was too vain. He valued wealth over other things, and his punishment was his desire for greater wealth. There's another version of the story too where he's able to get rid of the curse, but then he's cursed later with the ears of an ass because he claims that Pan plays music better than Apollo. So Apollo's like, well, clearly if anyone thinks he plays better than me, he must have the ears of an ass. In that case, this is a donkey. And he gives him donkey ears. Isn't that fun?
Hold up.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that this man who fucked up pulls a Aladdin and the King of Thieves, turns everything to gold, goes, fuck, I can't eat anything or drink anything, gets it fixed, and then makes a sly comment at one of the fucking gods, and it's like, well, now I'm going to give you fucking donkey ears because I hate you.
Yep.
Man. So
the through line of these is don't fuck with the gods, really.
Yeah.
But in all these cases, it shows, it's like, in this case, it was because he was like, oh, all I care about is gold. And so clearly, there's more things to be caring about in this world than gold. So the next is the story of Arachne.
The spider lady.
Yes. So Arachne was a weaver who was said to weave the best tapestries in like all of the world. And so one day, Athena, who was also she was a goddess and a weaver, hears about this, and so she decides to challenge Arachne to a weaving competition. So Arachne is like, okay, let's do it. And so Athena depicts the gods and the punishments that they bestowed on mortals who claimed that their skills were equivalent of the gods. And Arachne makes a tapestry that was mocking the gods, especially Zeus, for like, fucking too much and things like that. So this is where things get real dark. So Athena becomes furious and like tears up the tapestry. Then she strikes Arachne on the head. And because of this, Arachne gets incredibly embarrassed and she hangs herself. But then Athena's like, no, you can't do that. So she brings her back to life, but she also curses her with water, with like magical water, to turn her into a spider. And that is why spiders weave good webs. Yeah.
Because someone killed themselves and then someone's like, nah, I'm going to use mystic water on your ass?
Yes, sir.
Huh.
So the punishment for this one is that this mortal claimed that her skills were equivalent to, you're even better than a god, which is something you don't do. So she did not respect this divine being, and that was her punishment. Okay, so the next one
talk about a rude devil went down to Georgia.
Hey, this next one's even ruder, Cody.
Oh no.
So this is the story of apologies in advance, Astion. And so this one is actually, in my opinion, like the one that shows just how petty the gods are. So real quick, the goddess Artemis, if you recall from a little while ago, she is the goddess of the hunt, and she was also a virgin. She was an eternal virgin, and she had this like secret cove where she would go to bathe after hunting. Now, Aceton was a great hunter who some claimed was trained by the centaur Chiron. And one day he was hunting with his dogs and he accidentally stumbled upon Artemis's like magical bath grove, and he saw her bathing. And so she became enraged and turned him into a deer, and then he was torn apart by his own dogs.
Jesus.
So I guess the moral of this story is don't go wandering too far.
So like, hold up. Just so that I can get some clarity.
Fit the theme, but I just wanted to tell it.
Hold up.
Yo.
So, was it because he was peeping on a lady?
Yeah.
Or like, did he accidentally like stumble in and then she just immediately turned around? He had no chance to like. Is the moral of the story don't go peeping on ladies? Because if that's the case, I totally get it.
I think that's the story, but I think it's more like, I don't know. The thing that messes me up is the fact that he wasn't actively searching it. He just kind of stumbled upon it. Maybe maybe he stayed for too long. You know what? I'll give Artemis the benefit of the doubt. But in any case, like, he didn't even challenge anyone that time. Yeah.
Well, okay. So all you young boys out there, if you go peeping on people who are naked, you will be turned into a deer and eaten by an animal that's bigger than you.
Phantom Roulette. It's a charity. But anyway, and then so there's one last one I want to tell real quick, and then I'll open up the floor to questions. So this next one is the story of Echo and Narcissus. So full disclosure, Echo is not a human. Echo is a water nymph. And apparently, according to mythology, one of the things she loved to do was talk a lot, and she also like really loved to get in the last word, but she loved to talk incessantly. And so one day, Hera was looking for her husband, who was fooling around with these water nymphs, and so Echo decides that she's going to help out her friends. So she starts chatting Hera's ear off and kind of poking fun at her and things like that. And so when Hera discovered that she was being toyed with and gamed, she punished Echo by, apparently, like, the quote is something along the lines of, like, well, you love to always get in the last word, so now you can only say the last word you hear. So, when someone would say hello, she could only say hello or things like that. So she took away Echo's love of talking. Okay, so one day Echo is hanging out. She's real sad. She sees this very handsome dude. In fact, some called him the most handsome dude on Earth, who was named Narcissus. Now Narcissus starts hearing the voice of a lovely woman. And he was like, "Who's there?" And she would only be able to say "there" and things like that. And so he'd say, "Come, find me." And then she would say, "Come," and things like that. And eventually, when she finally saw him, he rejected her. He rejected all the other water nymphs. And then eventually he rejected this young fair maiden who decides to pray to the gods that he should be punished for his transgressions. So one day he was looking for some water to drink when he caught his own reflection, and he was entranced by it, because the only thing he wanted to do was to see this beauty for the rest of his life. And so he eventually died of starving, because he would refuse to look away from his own reflection. So in all these cases, we see that these are, in a lot of cases, a vice taken to an extreme, right? So it's a person who is too vain, or a person who's too greedy, or things like that. But there's a lot of stories that like follow these lines and things like that. But in this case, these stories I think are some of the best examples that show the punishment of toying with the divine gods. So if your vice becomes too much, punishment awaits. Now, Cody, do you have any questions for me?
First off, it's fucked up. I get it, but like, it's fucked up. Secondly, are you basically telling me that moderation is the key?
Yeah, I think that's I don't know if you're doing a bit right now, but moderation is the key.
It's kind of half and half. I'm kind of doing a bit.
Fair enough.
It kind of, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of the like, I'm imagining those old like 2000s commercials for like basically every beer, and it's like, drink in moderation. It's like, greed only in moderation, and then like someone's like fucking body turns to gold and some shit like.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, these are kind of rough stories. Also, and I think another thing is, as I was doing research for these, it was clear that the kids' book of Greek mythology I had smoothed out some of the rougher edges.
Right. Probably tried to make it appropriate to children as possible.
Yeah. Like, in the Arachne story, they did not say that she portrayed the gods fucking. Yeah. But, and they left out the hanging herself bit, and they replaced with just like, she just turned her into a spider. And I was like, oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, what a weird...
That's why spiders are good.
What a weird, so, I guess question, if you can even answer it, I'm not sure. Did she turn her into a spider because she was a weaver who protests that she was the best?
I think it was just like she turned her into a small creature.
Okay.
But she still had the skills of a weaver.
All right. So then
she taught it to her spider brethren.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's the accepted story, is that like, yeah, like she was just making her something small and insignificant. So
got it. Another question.
Yo.
Is Spider-Man a descendant of Arachne?
Well, Cody, in the hit musical Spider-Man: Turn Off the Dark.
Wait.
Are you think I'm... No, I'm not.
Oh no.
Arachne is a character in it. Because she is the spinner of fate or something.
Sure.
That musical went through like 4 iterations.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, no, Arachne definitely shows up in the musical Spider-Man: Turn Off the Dark.
Oh no.
Yep.
I didn't think there was a thing. That was just a bit.
Nope. You fell right into my bit trap. You fell right into my Bitcoin.
It's all sticky and now I can't get out.
Okay, so anyway, hey guys, that was the history section. Hey, if you liked this episode and you want to participate in the show or learn more or do things like that, there's lots of ways you can do that. Hey, Cody, what are some of the ways that they can do that?
Oh, I'm still so sticky.
Nice clean dismount.
No, I'm still sticky.
Oh, man. Ugh. Oh, man.
Anyways.
So the judges right now are holding up all 10s for Joe, and then Cody did it, and they held up 0s. Cody got the first all 0 in U.S.
Well, hold on,
history.
but what about the guy at the end who never is consistent with the other judges? What did he give me?
He gave you a -0.
What?
Yeah. Interpret that as you will.
I'm just going to go divide by 0 now. Anyways. Yeah, I'll put some static in there. Or whatever.
That was you divided by 0. No. You got to keep those mouth sounds in there.
Well, they'll still be there. That quality content. So if you like this and want to hear more, you can go to our website at www.fandomroulette.com, where you can see all of our episodes and all of our links to our social medias or to our other platforms. And at the very bottom, you can go down there, and if you want to ask us questions about the things we talked about, or just wanted to send feedback, whatever, what have you, there's a little box at the bottom where you can fill out like your internet tag and a little box that lets you get in contact with us. So feel free to use that. We are also on Twitter at fandomr_podcast. This is where we post when I go live to stream, when we find funny things on the internet that we enjoy, or just generally chatting with our audience. You can also send us an email at fanroulettepodcast@gmail.com if you're ever looking to do something or just chat with us on a more private level. If you want to do that, that is our email address. If you want to show other people the podcast, but they're weird and they're like, I only watch things on YouTube or whatever, you can find us at YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Play, all of the podcast catchers, all under Fandom Roulette.
Yeah.
We're also on Facebook and Instagram. And Instagram, we post funny memes and stuff that we enjoy doing.
Yep.
Like our episode of blacksmithing, where we actually had pictures of Joe blacksmithing.
Hitting that metal.
Yeah.
Hit that metal. Anything else? Rate, review, subscribe.
Yeah.
Did we miss anything? I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think we did everything all backwards or whatever. But yes, like, rate, review, subscribe on whatever platform you are. Share to a friend.
Ring the bell.
Yeah, smash that bell for email notifications. Anything you guys do will help us in the future as we evolve and move on to continue to create more quality content. Yeah, ooh, do you taste that artisan spices and herbs that I put into the content?
Oh, was that not the kissing sound I made last week? Or last time? Whatever.
Hey
guys.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, if you put 50 likes on this video.
Nope. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to Fan Roulette. This is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And as always, stay nerdy.
Stay super nerdy. I'm gonna get those 50 likes.